one of the most hardworking voice actors out there.
Oh, thanks. We all work pretty hard. We have to.
Well, we're really happy to have you here. And well, this isn't about me asking questions, Abby. This is about you guys. This is about the fans. So why don't you, the most excited fan.
When you do the voice for Nezuko, do you actually put a bamboo in your mouth?
That's a good question. I don't put a bamboo in my mouth, but because I want to kind of have that effect of muffling the sound a little bit, I'll put my finger right here like this. And it kind of helps muffle the sound enough that it sounds like it's blocked a little bit, but not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Is it easier to do that, or is it easier to match flaps?
It is easier to not match flaps. So me and Bryce, I think, are the luckiest in the Demon Slayer cast because he gets to wear a boar head, and so he doesn't have to match flaps. You know, sometimes it's tricky to time when you're translating from Japanese to English, and then you're trying to fit the translations to the flaps. And I get to cheat because I have bamboo like this. So we have it easy compared to poor Zenitsu and Tanjiro.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What was the journey like from when you first started voice acting to where you are now?
So my voiceover journey started when I was in 6th grade, I guess, because that's when I started to do plays in school. I studied theater. I did theater all through middle school and high school and then into college. I wanted to be an actor and singer, but I didn't know in what capacity. I didn't know if I wanted to be on camera or on stage. Didn't really think of voiceover as a career. I didn't even realize that was an option, which is weird because I'm a huge fan of cartoons, you know. I love cartoons and video games. And so then after I graduated, I went on the JET program in Japan. Does anybody know what the JET program is? It's a teaching exchange program. I see one person way back there. Teaching exchange program that, so basically I was flown to Japan to work for a year as an assistant language teacher. And this was just because I wanted to travel. It had nothing to do with voiceover or theater or anything. And then I loved it in Japan, but I was in Akita, which is in the north of Japan, kind of the middle of nowhere, or inaka, as they call it in Japanese. And there wasn't a lot for me to do there, theater-wise, acting-wise. But I was having a great time, so I stayed for a second year. A year turned into 2. And then at the end of my second year, I was kind of feeling the itch, like I need to get back to performing. I want to do acting, I want to do music. And so I moved to Tokyo because I wanted to try it there before I just moved back to the United States. I ended up living in Tokyo for 4 years. It's hard to leave. It's hard to leave Japan. It's a great place. And while I was in Tokyo, I started doing these children's musicals that performed on stage and traveled around Japan. So I got to travel, which was awesome. I got to perform, I got to sing. And I was also gigging here and there, doing like backup singing for a rapper named Tigara on her album, or like just any gig I could get. And that's where I first got to do voiceover. And I did some textbooks, which were not that fun, but still fun enough for me to be interested. And then I got to do some character voices for the children's shows that I was in, for some of the puppet characters and the kigurumi characters on stage. And that's where I was really like, oh, this is so much fun. I love this. And I thought about it and I kept thinking about it. And I realized that it is a job. I feel like I can do it if I work hard enough. I think that I can do it. But the English voiceover is not in Japan, really. Most of the opportunities are back in the States, in New York or LA. So I finally left Japan, reluctantly. And then I started taking classes here, slowly built a resume. Some of you might know this, but I entered a contest hosted by Bang Zoom Entertainment, which is the company that dubs Demon Slayer. And I ended up winning this contest. They flew me out to LA, and I got to dub my first anime, which is called Miss Monochrome. So that was a whole exciting thing that happened. And then it was also really encouraging to me because I had won this contest, which means like, maybe I'm not horrible at voiceover. So I then decided to move to LA because that's where most of the animation, video games are being recorded. So that was like my whole journey. I landed in LA. I still take classes every once in a while for acting or improv to keep up my skills. But yeah, here I am.
Oh, out of curiosity, since you lived in Japan for so long, are you able to speak Japanese?
はい。
Oh, thank you.
ペラペラでしたけど、今はちょっと。Anybody here speak Japanese? Oh yeah, cool.
Sugoi.
My Japanese is definitely rusty. We'll see. We'll just say that.
Anyway, my question is, what's your favorite outfit of Annette?
My favorite outfit?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think I love her post-time skip outfit with the cape.
Yeah.
I think it's like so beautiful, and I kind of want to wear it. Someday maybe I'll cosplay Annette, but.
I think I like the Christmas one they did this year, the last Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm still in 2021.
Christmas Annette.
Yeah.
That's cute too, yeah.
Yeah.
All of her outfits are cute, I think. It's hard to pick. Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is in Tales of Berseria, you play Laphicet Crow, upon which, and I'll try and keep this spoiler-free, he is written out of the story, which drives the catalyst for the main character to go on an adventure, but then he returns 3 years later and things are different. So in regards to the voice direction for the character before and after the series of events, how did the direction or that you decided to take with that go?
Okay,
And like
so-
how the vocal director went with it.
Just because this comes up a lot, I am not the Laphicet in the party. I am
Yes,
the other
correct, Mungo.
Laphicet, if that makes sense to anyone who's played the game. It was, it's hard to answer this question without spoiling everything. But earlier in the game, when Laphicet is, he's kind of an innocent kid, and his innocence, I guess the direction went from him being an innocent child to kind of no longer that. And without spoiling anything, I'll just say that it's kind of about the loss of his innocence and a transformation of sorts. ...
Thank you.
Because Smash Bros. Ultimate means a lot to me as like a person, and my question is, how were you able to get the singing role for Lifelight?
So for that one, I got an audition requesting demos, and I had a singing demo. I think what maybe piqued their interest was that I had a Japanese song on there, and it's like a ballad style song, maybe kind of in the vein of Smash. And then I got a callback, and for the callback, they wanted us to sing the theme song from Evangelion. Do you guys know that one? Yeah, that one. And but only it was like 3 steps higher than the original key. So I spent like an afternoon. I had worked that day. I was already feeling pretty rough vocally. Spent the afternoon like trying to get the perfect audition, like recording it over and over, because like I really wanted to do a singing job. I had no idea what it was for, but I was like, oh, singing, I haven't done singing in a long time because I've been focusing on voiceover. Really want to book this, even though I have no idea what it is. And then I was not feeling great about my audition. I was like, it's not perfect. I don't think I can send it in. And I emailed the studio and I was like, you know what? I'm so sorry. I'm feeling like kind of rough vocally. I don't think I should send this in. And then the studio engineer emailed me back and they were like, Abby, just send it. Just send the audition, come on. Because they know that I get in my head. It's really hard as an actor sometimes to not like be so critical of yourself that you just, you pick it apart and then you lose all confidence. So this was earlier in my career. I was not confident yet, especially with singing jobs. And so
Right.
I just sent it, and I guess they liked it because they hired me to do the job. And it was so awesome to record. Like when they sent me the music, the sheet music and everything, and a demo clip of the background music, and I was like instantly in love with this song. As a person who grew up as a fan of anime and video games, like this is the kind of stuff I would listen to, when running in the gym or anything. So it was a really special gig.
Who's your Smash man?
I main Samus and Dark Samus, but I'm very bad at Smash. It's my
bad.
deep dark secret. Good question.
So you're an anime fan too?
Oh yeah.
voice acting feels closer to singing than acting. As both, how do you think of that idea?
I think, first of all, I would say that voice acting is acting. It is acting. I don't know if it feels closer to singing for me, unless you're doing like a voice match where you're listening, you're trying to match the pitch of somebody's voice. Like when I did Anna in Dreamlight Valley, I'm listening to Kristen Bell and I want to match that pitch. But I think voice acting, especially now, video games and animation are really leaning into, they use the word grounded a lot, which just means like natural. So it's still acting, it's still a performance. You're just not in front of a camera or you're not on stage. So it still has to be authentic and natural though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is your favorite part that you enjoyed recording the most for Nezuko?
What was the best part for you recording like the series so far?
Okay, one of my favorite scenes is right in the beginning of the anime, in the first episode, where Nezuko is turning into a demon and she's attacking Tanjiro. And he has the sword in her jaws and he's trying to fight her off and he's trying to convince her that she's Nezuko, his sister. And she realizes that and starts to cry. And I love that moment so much. I feel like it's such a pivotal moment for Nezuko's character because she realizes who she is and she's able to resist her bloodlust. I also love moments where, as Chuntaro, the sparrow, I get to yell at Zenitsu.
You do the sparrow?
I do.
Mm-hmm. What? I didn't know you were the sparrow.
What?
That's right. I get to yell at Zenitsu. Because as Nezuko, I can't yell at him, but as Chuntaro, I can and put him in his place.
I had a question about your time in Japan. So since you were there for 6 years, was there any part of you that kind of thought to yourself, maybe I could be here long term? And is there anything in particular you really liked about living there?
Oh man, so many things. Yeah, that's why it was so hard to leave, is because I love Japan. It's such a great country, a really great place to live. Tokyo is a hard city to live in. And I probably wouldn't have chosen Tokyo except for the fact that that's where most of the performance stuff was available that I wanted to do. Like all the auditions that I was interested in were basically based in Tokyo. But it is a difficult city to live in that it's kind of a lonely city. Like there's lots of people, but you still sometimes you feel alone despite that. Like when I lived in Akita, it was in the middle of nowhere, but I had lots of close friends. In Tokyo, I feel like I had a lot of friends, but not as close. So give and take. But I love Japan. I love the food. I love that healthcare is accessible. It's clean. It's beautiful. I got to see a lot of Japan just traveling for the shows. The place in Akita where I lived actually inspired Ghibli films. That's how beautiful it was. And I still remember getting off the plane when I first moved there. I'd never been on an airplane before until I moved to Japan. And then I saw how blue the sky was and how green everything was in Akita. And I was just like in love with the place. So there's so many things I miss. I have friends there still. But when it comes down to it, the opportunities that I knew would truly make me happy were here. And I am happier than I was over there, despite all of the other magical stuff. So it's a give and take. But have you been to Japan?
Technically at an airport.
At the airport? Well, you gotta go, and you gotta get out of the airport.
Yeah, I know they
see
recently
everything.
opened it up without
Yeah, that's true.
so.
It did put a damper on things. You're welcome. Thanks for your question.
What is your favorite arc in Demon Slayer that you voiced in?
I really like, in the entertainment district arc, I really like the whole scene with the Daki fight and then Tanjiro having to really reel Nezuko back in because she's really losing it in that scene. She's she's attacking people, you know. And then when he sings her the lullaby, I just think it's so sad and beautiful. So that's one thing that stands out from that arc.
Yeah, I love that. And also, my favorite is Mugen Train, so.
Yeah. Also the animation in the fight and entertainment district is so good.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
So good.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories to share that happened to you in your career?
Funny or interesting stories? I have kind of a funny story about when I lived in Japan. It's funny in retrospect. So when I lived in Japan, I was auditioning for an on-camera job. It was a drama. Who's familiar with dorama, asadora, morning drama in Japan? So there's, asadora is like, in the morning, there are drama, kind of like soap operas, and they're very popular shows. And there was one show that, I can't think of the name of it. I didn't know the name when I was auditioning, but they were looking for a foreigner to play a Scottish woman. It was based on a true story, who lived in Japan, was fluent in Japanese. She had a Japanese husband, et cetera, et cetera. So I auditioned for this thing, got a call back, and I was excited because like they needed somebody who was a foreigner but also fluent in Japanese or able to speak Japanese and learn the lines. So I was like, yes, I could do this. And so I auditioned, I get a call back. We did like several stages of this audition, and one of them was we had to like improvise in Japanese. So there's like a group of 10 or 12 women in this room and a lady leading this improv session. And it was like pretend you're a bird and fly around. It was so like not related to the show at all, but hilarious in retrospect. And then one of the other stages was like doing a scene, which made sense from the show. They filmed it. And then I think we went through like, I don't know, it was weeks. It was like a month plus of like these callbacks and sessions. And finally, in the end, they booked a woman from LA who did not speak any Japanese at all. And she had to learn her lines like she didn't understand Japanese, so she had to learn them by just memorizing by rote, phonetically. And yeah, so that I thought that was so funny because it solidified to me that like, yeah, I should leave Japan because, you know, the opportunities that I truly want, I think I'll find back in the States. But if I had booked that job, I would have stayed and I would have moved to Osaka to record that show. And who knows, I might still be there. So I am glad I didn't book it now. And you know, years later, I'm like, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to be doing that. I want to be doing this. So in retrospect, it's a lucky thing.
Well,
But
well,
hilarious.
thank you, and I'm glad that you've chosen to become a voice actor instead now.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we're glad that we have you right now. That's awesome.
You glad that I failed? Thank you.
Did the what do you call it, Act Like a Bird come back up when you were doing Demon Slayer?
Yeah. I was like, I remember this. No, but also the actress did a great job. I just want to say that. Like, with all the hard work she put in, like, yeah, unbelievable.
What was it like working with the original voice actors on Shaman King?
So, like, I don't know if you know, when we dub, we record alone. So I just knew who the cast was. I didn't get to record with them, like, in the room. But I had, like, imposter syndrome because I think most of the main cast came back, and then it was just, like, me and Laura Stahl as the two new leads. So initially, I was like, I wanted to do a good job because I didn't want to mess it up because all of the other casts were great, and you know, I didn't want to be the one to come in and be like, and I ruined it. So I remember like the first few sessions of that, I was like doing a take after take and trying to get it like perfect. And the director would be like, okay, do you like it? And I'd be like, no, let me do it again. But then as the show went on, I settled into the role and I was like, yeah, we got this. And but it was really fun to record. I think Laura also left me some fun messages. When you're recording, she would just be like, hi, Abby, at the end of her line. So that was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My question is, what's her dream series to be in?
It would be really cool to be in the Dragon Ball universe. If I could pick a video game, I'm going to say Metroid. I'm a huge Metroid fan, so to be in that Metroid universe would be pretty awesome.
They do a movie for Metroid.
do a movie for Metroid. If they made a Metroid movie, I would just hit up anybody I know to be like, let me do Walla in the background for Metroid, please. They should make a Metroid movie.
They should. Like, Metroid has the right aesthetic.
Oh my
right
gosh,
feel.
it could be great.
Yeah. What's your favorite Metroid game?
Super Metroid.
Same.
Yeah, it's so good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
When you were doing children's theater in Japan, did you ever do anything like Kanashibai or anything like that?
No. So the shows that I was doing were mainly to teach kids English. So they had like original characters that they used to, kind of like Disney characters, to teach kids English through the songs that they would learn. And there was also this thing I did called telephone English, where people would call in and you just sing songs on the phone to kids. And sometimes they sing with you and sometimes you're just singing at like a newborn baby. But the idea is to expose them to English early and have them use English early so that the seeds are planted.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a thing, but there's a couple of other things I've learned from just reading and researching. I'm going after I finish graduating in a couple of years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I did study no theater briefly when I was in Akita.
Oh, no theater with the white face paint or mask?
Yes, but we just did, I didn't wear paint or a mask. I just wore the kimono and hakama, the pants that are like the wide-legged pants. And you have a fan, and like there are these like elaborate dances that you do, like it's a choreographed dance, and there'll be like people singing traditional no, and yeah, it was kind of imposed on me by my shakuhachi teacher. So I played the Japanese flute. It's called the shakuhachi. And I was so excited to learn shakuhachi, but my teacher was also a historian. So he was like, don't you also want to learn no? And I was like, sure. So that was like, yeah, it was an experience though.
Is there any shows that you saw while you were in Japan that you wish they would bring over here?
They end up bringing most of the good ones over here, I feel like. So, yeah. Do you have any that you know exist in Japan only?
There was this one that was a while back. They broadcasted it in Hawaii, but they didn't broadcast it over here. It was Suhanman. And it was about this guy who was like just exceptionally good at apologizing. And so he would like apologize and be like, oh, here, have this dolphin pen. The ink will last you until you feel better, and all of these other things. But but what he would do is he would put on basically a Zorro outfit and go out and be like, I'm back. And he worked on this shopping network, and then he'd bring together everyone in this shopping network and their estranged parents and other such things.
I love Japanese television. That makes me think of like, I don't know if it is over here, Anpanman?
Anpanman, yes.
Anpanman. It's the cutest theme song ever. But he's like a little bread man. His head is made out of anpan, which is like red bean bread. And there's like a whole bread crew. I just thought it was adorable, but I don't know if that's available in the States.
Yeah, that one, man, I haven't thought about that one in a minute, but yeah, that would be so cute to bring over, especially with the current anime fandom.
They should do it.
What food have you tried in Japan?
Okay, my favorite food, one of the best meals I've ever eaten in my life was in Hakodate, Hokkaido, which is like the bottom part of Hokkaido. It's a coastal city. And they have like a market there, a fish market. It's great. But I went to this little restaurant and I got an oyakodon bowl, which is, this is messed up, but oyako means parent-child. And it is a bowl of salmon and salmon eggs. Not the greatest name. But the fish there is so fresh that it was unlike anything I'd ever tasted before. Delicious. And the rice was perfect. And they gave me a little bowl of like crab miso soup, and it was just amazing. I still dream about it. I'm drooling now under my mask. But the food there, as far as seafood goes, it's just like next level. It's amazing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Does it feel any different to record for a game as opposed to a show?
It is different. So a lot of times for video games, JRPGs included, you're just getting like a list of lines. You don't really see what's happening. You don't see the animation unless it's like a cutscene, and then you're dubbing to the cutscene. Or sometimes if you're doing an original game, like I was in Back 4 Blood voicing Carly, so they showed me pictures of like the background of where I was, the weapons I use, my character, this monster that eats me. You know, like they would show me art, but I didn't get any animated reference. When you're doing cartoons, it's the same thing as that if it's an original cartoon, like Carmen Sandiego. So we did prelay for that, which means we're originating the voices. There's no art yet. They're animating to our voices. So when you're dubbing, though, you get to see all of the art because it's already animated most of the time. If it's a simul-dub, sometimes it's not complete, but there's usually something to dub to. So you get a better sense of like the world, the vibe, you can act with the character who's dubbing against you. It can help. It can help if you get to see the animation just to create the world. You don't have to imagine as much. You have to work as hard, I guess.
So then when you were voicing Annette, did they not give you much to work off of? Or they just like say this in a happy tone or something?
So with Annette, they'll tell me the story. They'll tell me like, I knew what was happening in the game when it was relevant to Annette. So like lines like when she's talking about her father, there's not such a great relationship there with her dad. So those lines, they would be like, okay, so your father, he did this, and like this is how you feel about him. So that definitely that information affects the performance 100%. So the director and there's usually like some people from Nintendo are there to provide information about the game that help inform the performance. So you're not just flying blind, you're not just like making stuff up. There is direction.
While you did the song for Smash Brothers, I was wondering about how long or how hard did you have to practice in order before performing that?
So I think I got the music not too long before we recorded, and we recorded it all in one day. So I tried to practice as much as I could within that time. I had the sheet music and like the guiding track. So yeah, just in that limited time span, I practiced as much as I could so that I knew what vibe I wanted to go in with. And then we did it all in one day. And Greg Chun was the music director. Do you guys know Greg Chun?
Oh, Greg's great.
He's another voice actor who's just amazing. And he's a composer as well. He's super talented. He is. He actually composed music for I Think You Should Leave, that comedy show.
Really?
Which I'm a fan of, so I geeked out at him about that.
Really?
Yeah, he's so talented. And with Greg there, I knew that I could trust him to direct me, and we got it done in one day.
What was your favorite part about working on Demon Slayer?
My favorite part about working on Demon Slayer has been seeing the different types of people that watch the show. And I feel like the show brings families together, literally. People are telling me like, oh yeah, I watched this with my grandma, and things that like when I was growing up, anime was not cool. My parents didn't care about anime, or if they did, they just cared about it enough to tell me that I shouldn't be watching it. Like it wasn't popular. It wasn't such a huge thing. And now today, you see shows like Demon Slayer and families are watching it together, and we have fans of all ages coming to our table. I had a woman who came to my table who, she was buying a little Nezuko print, and I was like, oh, who's this for? Is it for you? And she was like, yeah, and she was like really shy about it. She was 70 years old, and she was like ashamed of the fact that she was into anime, and I was like, no, this is amazing, this is great, please come back. And we just talked about the show a little bit, and I love to see that.
It's good to see a lot of the older generation starting to discover these things. There's a YouTube channel that's pretty great called Food for Dogs, and it's this little old New Zealand lady who's gotten into video games late in her life. She just talks about like Xenoblade Chronicles and stuff. It's fantastic.
Awesome. That is great. I love that. And it's never too late to get into anime and video games. And I just love that it is accessible to people. You don't have to like go to your friend's house who has like the Blu-ray of the show or the DVD of this show that you want to watch. It's like you can stream it. It's great.
Yeah, you don't have to send in like a check to a sketchy place to get a VHS tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not old. What?
No,
What are you talking about?
You can't hear my knees.
When you were doing the voice work for Talk to Me, did you have to, basically what was the direction for it? Did you have to like do it based on the old voice actor? Was it your like own, what's the word? Was it like your own kind of perception of the character that led it?
So they didn't have me listen to the original voice ref. It's Kirsten Potter who's the original voice, and I love her voice. I think it's so good, and her take on Takemi is awesome and excellent. But my voice is different, and I didn't want to try to imitate her performance. I wanted to kind of do my own thing. If anything, I would be hearing the Japanese version. So I think my voice is closer in pitch to the Japanese version of Thai. So I would be listening to that and kind of in that vein doing my performance. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And when it comes to dubbing, how often do you try to keep in line with just that original Japanese performance? How important is that to you compared to, I mean, I know some dub artists like to just take it in their own direction, but do you value that more or less than any other voice actors by any chance? Or?
It's hard to, I don't know how much people take that into consideration. It really depends on the role too. And also depends on the production and the director and how much they want you to kind of be, in that vein. But I usually I would say more often than not, I'm trying to pay homage to the original Japanese performance, but it's going to be different in English, anyway, just because it's a different culture and a different language. So I try to consider that when I'm auditioning or performing, but if it's not, I'm not trying to match it perfectly.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, do you have a favorite scene within the Demon Slayer franchise?
A favorite scene? Can it be any scene that even if I'm not in it?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe Rengoku fighting, and I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe you guys haven't seen the movie, but Rengoku's ultimate battle, I would suppose, is one of my favorites. Also, in the latest arc, the last battle, like just the animation. I really love the fluid animation. So like moments like that fight, and then also like Tanjiro's dad doing the dance, like the fluidity of that animation, like anything that has that just kind of sucks me in, and I really remember it. So that was like 3 answers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you especially for being here. And yeah, let's have a round of applause.
Yay. Thank you so much for coming to my Sunday morning panel. I'm really happy that somebody came.